It's kind of wild to think that a dense academic text from 1972 Soviet Russia could hold a master key to understanding, well, complexity itself. But today, we're cracking open general linguistics, the internal structure of language, to pull out two incredibly powerful ideas that do just that. They give us a framework not just for language, but for pretty much any complex system you can think of. All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at language as this ultimate puzzle. Then we'll get into our two key concepts, system versus structure. After that, a quick look at the history behind these ideas, how they actually build language layer by layer, and finally, how this whole thing is really a blueprint for complexity everywhere. I mean, when you stop and think about it, language is probably the most complex and incredible thing humanity has ever created. It's basically the operating system for our societies, our thoughts, everything. But that, of course, brings up a huge question. Seriously, how? There's a literally infinite number of sentences you could say. Language is always evolving, always changing. Most of the time, we use it without even a second thought. So, how in the world do you get a scientific handle on something that seems to have no boundaries? Well, the answer, and this is the core argument of the text, is that you do what scientists always do. It doesn't matter if you're a geneticist, a sociologist, or a physicist. The first step is always to look past the chaotic surface and search for the hidden rules, the underlying principles of organization. You have to find the order in the chaos. And that brings us right to the heart of this explainer. To help us find that order, the Soviet linguists who wrote our source text gave us two incredibly useful tools, two concepts we need to unpack: system and structure. Okay, so the big distinction here is between system and structure. You can think of it as the difference between potential and actual. A system is all the possibilities, all the Lego bricks in the box. A structure is the specific thing you decide to build with those bricks. So let's take English. The system of English is every single sound, every word, and all the grammatical rules for how they could fit together. It's the entire inventory, the complete toolkit a speaker has at their disposal. Basically, it's everything you could possibly say. Structure, on the other hand, is the real, tangible result. It's this exact sentence that I'm speaking to you right now. It's the specific blueprint of this one utterance, showing which tools from the kit I chose and precisely how I put them together to make meaning. It's what is actually said. So where did these ideas even come from? I mean, they didn't just pop up out of thin air, right? They were actually forged in this huge, century-long debate about what language even is. It all really gets going in the early 20th century with a Swiss linguist named Ferdinand de Saussure. His ideas sparked a revolution. They were then picked up and developed by important groups like the Prague School, and eventually they were synthesized and refined by the Soviet School of Linguistics, the very people who wrote our source text. Saussure's big idea, and this was a total game changer, was that words and sounds don't have meaning by themselves. Their value comes from how they relate to or contrast with everything else in the system. The sound p is only meaningful because it's not a b. The word cat means what it does because it's not bat or mat or can. It's all about the relationships. Now, to really get where the authors of our source text were coming from, you have to understand their philosophical backdrop. Their thinking was deeply shaped by a worldview that emphasized one major idea. You can't understand any single part of a thing without understanding the entire system it belongs to. This focus on wholeness, on the interaction between parts, is exactly why they were so zeroed in on the relationships that create a language's structure. Okay, so enough with the abstract theory. Let's get our hands dirty and see how this actually works. This is where all clicks, when you see how language is built level by level, right from the ground up. So linguists basically see language as a set of layers. At the very bottom, you've got phonology. That's the system of distinct sounds in a language. Those sounds then combine to build the structure of words, which we call morphology. Those words make up your vocabulary, or lexicon. And then those words get arranged by the rules of syntax to build sentences. See? Each level is built using the pieces from the level right below it. And boom! This diagram, taken right out of that 1972 book, shows this principle in action perfectly. Down at the bottom, you have phonemes, the basic sounds. The relationships between them, as the text puts it, program the next level up, morphemes, which are the smallest chunks of meaning, like re, play, or ing. It's a perfect picture of structure just emerging from a system. You are literally seeing how a small, finite set of sounds can be arranged to create this massive world of meaning. All right, so here's the crucial takeaway. This whole framework, this way of seeing things through the lens of system and structure, it's not just for language nerds. This is a universal tool. Just think about it for a second. The genetic code. The system is just those 4 nucleotide bases, A, C, G, and T, and the rules for how they pair up. The structure, that's the specific, unique sequence that makes up your DNA. Or a social network. The system is all the people and the potential for them to connect. The structure is the actual map of who's friends with whom. Once you see it, you can use this lens to analyze almost anything complex. And that leaves us with one final, pretty mind-bending question to chew on. If our most fundamental tool, the thing we use for all of our complex thoughts, our language, is built on this elegant architecture of systems and structures, what does that tell us about the architecture of consciousness itself? It really makes you wonder if the way we build our words is just a mirror of how we build our world.